Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, man. Let's talk about it. How the Washington Commanders general manager Adam Peters finessed the entire NFL and especially the Philadelphia Eagles led by general manager Howie Roseman. Also, Brown star players that the Washington Commanders should try to trade for while they're having this garage sale apparently right now. Right now, guys are going for a penny on the dollar. We may want to go ahead and snatch up a few of those guys. We're going to take a look at who are the guys that we probably need the most based on the needs that we have on our team right now. Also, the Washington Commanders versus Bears game in a couple of weeks has officially been flexed to a different time. We're going to break down all of that and more, but before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Be on the lookout because again, I'm doing 2 videos a day, even though like the last one usually comes out like so late at night it's almost considered the next morning. But either way, make sure you're pulling up and checking out for like 2 videos literally every day. And of course, I will be live streaming that upcoming game against the Panthers, so make sure you pull up for that. And I'm about to start working on film sessions that are exclusive to channel members only. But instead of wasting more of y'all time, let's go ahead and get to this video, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how that Bears game in a couple of weeks has already been flexed to a different time. So the Week 8 matchup between the Bears and the Commanders has been flexed from 1 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. and will be on CBS. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't like that CBS broadcast versus the Ravens, dog. Like, they barely showed replays, especially on penalties. And then Tony Romo was drawing all over the screen all game and things like that. Like, it wasn't the best. I'm chilling, though, but it wasn't the best broadcast. But honestly, it doesn't really matter that much to me. The only thing I really care about is just to get off topic for a little bit. The only thing that I care about is if they can get us like a color commentator like an Aqib Talib before the drama. Like, obviously there's a reason he doesn't have a job right now, but I loved his type of commentary. Or how about somebody like Marshawn Lynch or Chad Johnson? Then and only then I'll actually really care about who's broadcasting. Other than that, I don't really care about who's analyzing it because I want a little bit of entertainment. I want some trash talk and things like that. Outside of that, I'm kind of chilling, man. So until then, I really don't care who's broadcasting or covering our teams. Honestly, that's really my only strong preference, and I don't think it's going to be really rare for me to ever get that, especially since Aqib Talib messed it up already for a lot of other people. But going back to the main topic at hand, apparently news for Week 8 from Ian Rappaport: Eagles versus Bengals will now be played at 1 p.m. going to the 70% of the country, much greater distribution for the whiteout. And then also in return, the Bears and Commanders will now move from 1 p.m. to 4:25 p.m. So we switch places with them, even though the Eagles and Bengals game will be shown to 70% of the country so that they can still get a lot of the exposure that they want. Of course, the Bears Commanders game is the game that most people want to watch, even more so than the Eagles and Bengals. The Eagles Bengals game may be like the priority for 1 p.m., but it's not a higher priority to watch than like the Bears versus the Commanders. Also, he said, and where it is, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo will call it for CBS. We'll see how that goes. CBS also has the Chiefs Raiders at 4:25 p.m., but everybody knows they're pulling up to that Bears Commanders game, that Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams game. That's really what everybody's pulling up. Also, shouts out to JP Finley for this one. He pointed out the fact that the Commanders get their first flex game Week 7 against the Bears for a 4:25 kickoff. National television, all of that. Jaden and Caleb. My guess is more flex games coming for Washington. Here's all the league TV rules to flex games. Remember, not just Sunday night anymore. Thursday and Monday can get flex too, as well, as you can see on the screen right now. And again, these are the rules for how flex games work from now on, especially this season specifically. It's all kinds of chaos. You never know what may happen. Your entire schedule can end up changing, not even just the time, but the day as well. Then you have Chris Russell, shouts out to him. He tweeted, "It's already starting. Primetime Marama is well underway. The NFL will do whatever it takes to get Jaden front and center." I love it. This year, expect being flexed 1 to 2 more times this season. He also said next year, probably expect like 5 of them to already be scheduled before the season even starts. So go ahead and get used to this, Commanders fans. And I'm not going to lie, I do prefer for us to play at 1 p.m. To be completely transparent, I prefer the 1 p.m. for the Commanders because I prefer to just have the rest of my day. It was exciting to start getting primetime games because that's a sign that we are a great team and we more than likely have a franchise quarterback that everybody wants to watch. So I'm more like, into why we're getting the primetime games than actually watching the primetime games and us getting flexed to them and like all of that type of stuff. So it was fun when we had like a point to prove, when we had something to prove to everybody, and it was like, oh, okay, we're getting primetime games. People are starting to finally respect us and want to watch us. But now, especially as a streamer, I'm cool on it personally, especially since that 1 p.m. game against the Ravens showed that most of NFL fandom will pull up to watch our game regardless of when it's on, who else is playing, when it's that much of an exciting matchup to watch. But it is what it is. I'll be all right. I'm too happy about even having a prime-timeable team to even worry about when we exactly play. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that we even have a team that's worthy of being flexed to primetime games and 4 p.m. games and things like that so everybody can watch us. Now, let's move on to the next topic for this video. Man, that boy, Adam Peters, finessed Howie Roseman and the Eagles. And remember the days when Howie Roseman and the Eagles were the ones finessing everybody else? I mean, now you got Adam Peters jigging and finessing them Eagles players. Howie Roseman catching some karma. Now we got the big dog at the table. Remember, a lot of us wanted Howie Roseman before we even got Adam Peters. I'm very happy to have Adam Peters because Howie Roseman is still one of those top guys, but he's not up there with Adam Peters. Adam Peters is one of the, look at the turnaround that we've had in just one offseason and 6 games into a rebuild. Come on now. No, you could argue nobody's at Adam Peters' level right now, but especially after this, because as of today, the Bills are trading Browns wide receiver Amari Cooper, sending a 3rd round pick and a pick swap. Full details: Buffalo gets Amari Cooper and a 6th from the Browns, and Cleveland gets a 3rd and a 7th in 2026. The 3rd is in 2025 from the Bills. And I'm not going to lie, that trade is pretty similar to the Jahan Dotson trade. But to be completely honest, the Jahan Dotson trade is actually better. And what's even crazier, we're going to get to that soon, but the fact that like Amari Cooper has 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, while Jahan Dotson has 6 catches for 35 yards this year, and that's it. In a couple of games where either A.J. Brown was hurt or Devonta Smith were hurt, or both of them were hurt, Jahan Dotson still hasn't been productive, and you have Amari Cooper out there doing it with the worst quarterback in the NFL so far this season with Deshaun Watson. And Jalen Hurts may not be playing at an MVP level right now this year, but he's not playing as bad as Deshaun Watson. So there's no excuse for Jahan Dotson at all. Also, Jahan Dotson is averaging 0.24 yards per route run. That's the 4th lowest average of any wide receiver with at least 120 routes run in weeks 1 through 6 since at least the year 2006. Jahan Dotson's having one of the 4th worst receiver profiles through the first 6 weeks of a season since 2006. And again, I do want to remind you that Jahan Dotson is the one playing with the better quarterback. Shouts out to Grant Paulson for this, because I completely agree. I know it's not apples to apples because of contracts and terms, so save your Twitter lectures, but Adam Peters got a 3rd round pick for Jahan Dotson a couple of months before the Raiders and Browns got 3rd rounders for Devontae Adams and Amari Cooper. And it's almost just that simple. Shouts out to this Eagles fan at Icy Vert, full-blown Eagles fan in Philadelphia, all of that type of stuff. He even posted a tweet about it and was talking to Howie Roseman like, yo, what's going on? Like, what are we doing type of thing? Come on, Roseman, how did we let this happen? He pointed out the fact that the Bills it took a 3rd and a 7th to get Amari Cooper. It took the Jets a 3rd for Devontae Adams, but the Eagles, it took a 3rd and 2 7ths for Jahan Dotson. But to be more specific, if we're including every draft pick exchanged by all teams involved, it actually goes: the Raiders traded Devontae Adams for a conditional 3rd, the Browns traded Amari Cooper for a 3rd, plus late round pick swaps, and the Commanders traded Jahan Dotson and a 5th rounder, don't forget that 5th rounder, for a 3rd and 2 7ths. Now, granted, with how little Jahan Dotson is getting paid compared to Amari Cooper and Devontae Adams, and that definitely matters. And the fact that Jahan Dotson is younger, that probably matters as well. And then we also had to send a 5th for our Jahan Dotson trade in order to get that 3rd back. But that's still a big time finesse from Adam Peters, especially since the Eagles aren't getting anything from Jahan Dotson right now. Jahan Dotson's being even way less productive for them than he was for us, which is just insane. And this also reminds me how people question what we got in return for Sam Howell, because when we first traded away Jahan Dotson, people were questioning, was that enough that we got in return? Did we just get finessed by the Eagles? Now, just a few weeks later, it's obvious that we finessed the Eagles, if anything. But this also reminds me of the situation and the time time when we got our trade package in return for Sam Howell. And then after Desmond Ridder and Kenny Pickett ended up getting moved, the Sam Howell trade looked like a steal for the Commanders as well. And I'm just telling you at this point, man, this boy Adam Peters, you just got to believe in him. You got to trust him. And also, speaking of finesses, how about the exact opposite? Shouts out to Mark Tyler for pointing this out. If you look on the screen right now, Ron Rivera's last 4 first-round draft picks and their 2024 stats specifically: Chase Young, 6 games, 0 starts, 16 tackles, 3 tackles for losses, and 1.5 sacks. Jamin Davis, 4 games, healthy scratches the other 2, just to let you know. 0 starts, twice inactive, healthy inactive, 12 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Jahan Dotson, 5 games, 3 starts, 6 receptions, 35 yards, and 0 touchdowns. Emmanuel Forbes, 3 games, 1 start, and then once inactive. 2 of the games he missed because of injury concerns he had to have that thumb surgery, but 1 game, this most recent game against the Ravens, just a healthy scratch. They just felt like he literally wasn't good enough to play at all. He has 6 tackles, 0 passes defense, 0 interceptions, and a few penalties as well. Remember, he got 2 penalties in 1 play, and I'm rooting for Emmanuel Forbes and Jamin Davis to at least give us some sort of production in return for the first round picks that they were drafted at. But it's not looking good for either of those guys right now. So thank you, Ron Rivera, for setting us back 4 years. And now moving on to the next topic, since the Browns are in sale mode all of a sudden, since they're having a garage sale and giving away people like for a penny on the dollar, they're giving away people for less value than I would have expected them to get rid of them for. How about we start taking a look at their star players, specifically on the defensive side of the ball? Now, maybe there's some offensive players we could dive into, but now with Amari Cooper gone, all I care about is their defensive talent. Let's go ahead and start with Myles Garrett, who right now has a 91.1 overall grade, which is 4th out of 114 qualified edge rushers in the NFL. And even ignoring his grade, when you just watch the tape, especially from the past few years, you can make an easy argument that Myles Garrett is the best edge rusher in the entire NFL right now. And so, I mean, if they're giving away Amari Cooper for a 3rd, maybe they're giving away Myles Garrett for less than a 1st, maybe a 2nd, who knows? I would definitely take a look at that, man. This guy has always been elite, dog. I mean, he's just a different caliber of player, to be completely honest with you. They just don't make Myles Garrett's don't grow on trees, man. This guy been elite his whole life, man. Because his rookie season, he started with an 80 grade. In this next year, in 2018, 86.9, then 2019, 86.5, then 2020, 89.5, and since then he hasn't had a grade lower than a 91, because in 2021, 92, 2022, 92.5, then a 94 last year, and a 91.1 to start this season right now. And the only reason this grade is even suffering a little bit is because his run defense is a 67.4, which is still pretty good, but that's bringing down his averages because his pass rush grade is a 93.2, which would make him one of the best, if not the best, pass rushers in the entire NFL, grade-wise, from Pro Football Focus. If there's a way that for any crazy reason the Browns are trying to have that much of a sale to where they're willing to give away Myles Garrett, that's the guy I'm going after first and foremost. I know we technically need corner more than anything else, but especially with Dorrance Armstrong hurt, and I know Jonathan Allen is technically a defensive tackle, but that's another defensive lineman hurt. Javonte John Baptiste is banged up as well. That's 2 edge rushers and a defensive tackle. But even if those guys were fully healthy, Myles Garrett is the best player on the Browns, arguably the best player in the entire AFC North, especially defensively. And it's just kind of like, if there's any opportunity to get that guy for anything other than multiple first round picks, you gotta hop on that, because even Myles Garrett for 1 first round pick is worth it, because with as good as we are, we're never going to be drafting high enough to even draft a Myles Garrett. Remember when Mike Tomlin told Chase Young, I don't ever want to be bad enough to even be able to draft a guy like you. Now, granted, hindsight 2020, they ended up not living up to the hype that it was supposed to be, but you're not getting a Myles Garrett with a first round pick that the Commanders will have pretty much from now on, now that we have Jaden Daniels. I don't ever expect us to pick high enough to get a Myles Garrett in the draft. So if there's any chance to get him for anything other than a bunch of first round picks, even if it's our first round pick this year, that's still worth it, because that first round pick may be in the late 20s, hopefully early 30s, you know what I'm saying, if we're gonna speak it into existence. And there's just no way in life you could even package multiple first round picks to take that pick and go get Myles Garrett to trade up for a guy of his caliber. Like, even if you took that first round pick and packaged it with a 2026 and a 2027 first rounder, that still probably wouldn't be enough to trade all the way up to get a Myles Garrett. So if the Browns are allowing us to even trade a first round pick for him, please hop on that opportunity. How about Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah going back to the the whole Rivera first round pick things, we ended up choosing Jamin Davis over Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah for whatever reason. And then the fact that he ended up going round 2, we took Jamin Davis round 1, I think with like the 19th pick in the draft or something like that. Just something absurd. Top 20 pick. I mean, just ridiculous. He was drafted at least 30 picks or more before Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and look at the difference in their careers. But most of us fans, if not all of us fans, just assume Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah would be the better player in the NFL. It's crazy that Ron Rivera and those guys somehow didn't when we all knew. But I'm not here to talk about that too much. My point is, we should have had this guy. He should already be on the team. But then when you really think about it, like butterfly effect wise, if Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah was drafted by Ron Rivera, we probably wouldn't even been able to even lose enough games to even be able to get in the range of getting Jaden Daniels. So thank goodness we have him, and maybe everything happens for a reason and we can end up trading for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. Right now he's having a fantastic season. Pro Football Focus feels like through these first 6 games he has the highest grade and he's having the best season he's had in his entire career, because last year he had a 75.3 grade. The year before that he had a 65.5. For some reason they felt like he had a down year, but I feel like injuries played a part in that. In his rookie season he had a 76.5 grade. This year through 6 weeks he has an 83.3, and he was a one-man wrecking crew against us. Forced that forced fumble against Terry McLaurin, got a red zone interception against Jaden Daniels. You know Jaden Daniels doesn't throw interceptions, so to get an interception on him is fantastic work by him. He was all over the place against us in coverage, against the run. He was a menace against us. He was scaring me, I'm not gonna lie. We ended up winning that game, but and it wasn't like his fault at all that we ended up beating them at all. He was the only reason that game we weren't able to score 50 points even before we benched and sat our starters at the early point in the 4th quarter. So if we can go and get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, please and thank you. Just to compare him to other linebackers, right now he has the 5th highest grade out of all linebackers in the NFL, out of 81 qualified linebackers according to Pro Football Focus. So right now they feel like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is a top 5 linebacker and Myles Garrett is a top 4 edge rusher. Give me both of them. Give me either one, whatever combination, I'm cool with it. How about Devin Bush? Look at him finally reviving his career and finally finding the right chemistry or whatever development he needed to get on track, because coming out of the draft out of Michigan, a lot of people were very excited about him, especially due to his athleticism and things like that. But since he's gotten into the NFL, he hasn't had good seasons. I mean, up until this point, his highest grade was a 59.7 back in 2020. No, a 62.9 technically his rookie season. But in 2021, he had a 34.4 Pro Football Focus grade. That's worse than Jamin Davis. I believe that's even worse than like Cody Barton and David Mayo last year. Like atrocious. But in 2024, a few years after that, now joining the Cleveland Browns, this is his first year with him, because remember his first 4 years with Pittsburgh. Last year he was with the Seahawks and he was a decent, but this year with the Browns, playing next to Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, that probably plays a part in that. He has a 76 overall grade with a 78.5 run defense, a career high, a 79.8 tackling grade, which is his 2nd highest, only second to his 2022 grade of having an 85.7 tackling grade. His pass rush grade is a 75.7, also really good. This is his best season of his life right now that he's having for the Browns. Maybe you go and get him now that his positive trajectory is pointing upwards, and he would be a good player for us if you wanted to go get him, even though I have absolutely no idea how to gauge his value, because he was worth absolutely pennies if you could get him leading up to this. I'm like, what did the Cleveland Browns give up for him? Matter of fact, let's go and look it up. Yeah, they signed him as a free agent. Like, they didn't have to trade anything for him, and they gave him a 1-year deal worth $1.5 million. Basically like a 1-year prove-it deal. And I mean, you're getting 1-year prove-it deals at the age of 26. You know, that's crazy young to already be in that type of situation right there. Did not get the second big-time contract after his rookie deal from the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is how he's ended up in this situation. So his value was really low going into the season, and maybe the Browns now, with as well as he's playing, maybe his value has gone up. But again, just to remind you, this guy was going basically for free in free agency this past offseason, but now he's turned things around. Maybe the Browns will be willing to let him go just for a little bit of an additional value. Again, they did not to trade anything for him. They only had to pay him $1.5 million. Maybe they're willing to give him up for like a 5th or a 6th or something like that, because they didn't have to give up any draft picks to get him. Now, how about our biggest need right now? How about the very biggest need that we are currently struggling with? Oh, also before we move on, Devin Bush is graded the 13th best linebacker in the entire NFL right now out of 81 of them. So right now the Browns have 2 top 13 linebackers according to Pro Football Focus. But again, let's move on to these cornerbacks. Shout out to JP Finley because I completely agree. If the Browns are in sell mode, I do think Washington should be calling about their cornerbacks. And we can start with Denzel Ward, who you can argue is the best one out of the 2. We're really out of all of them on the team, but we're mostly talking about Denzel Ward and Greg Newsome for this video because those are the top 2 guys that if you're trying to trade for a corner, especially from the Browns who are in garage sale mode, and you may be able to get them for cheaper now than you would have just a few weeks ago, those are the 2 guys that we're talking about. In his best season, his rookie season, 2018, he had a 78.9 grade, but even since then, he's had pretty good seasons. After that, he was a 69.9. 2020, he was a 72.8, and then 2021, his highest grade other than his rookie season was a 76.9. Since then, he's kind of been average slash pretty good, and so far this season, he has a 64 grade, but I'm telling you right now, if you watch the tape, this is a guy that would definitely make our team better. I know grades aren't the end all be all. It's a decent indication, like, you know, relatively, like, okay, this guy's better this year, he's been worse this year, things like that. But just put on the tape, man. Just imagine him on this defense with this mentality that Joe Witt Jr. and Dan Quinn are instilling into this team. I would just tell you, even if you don't think Denzel Ward is just like an A1 corner, which, I mean, maybe the argument is there to be had for that, even though he was a first-round pick, 4th overall. Don't forget that. Like, this guy had some extreme talent coming out of Ohio State. He's only 27 years old, just to remind you. But this guy can still play at an elite level. Like, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, he ended up with a 90.4 overall grade in that game. Just from that game alone, he was one of the best corners in the entire NFL. He still has it in him. I'm telling you, if it's not for his offense giving the ball back to opponents all of the time and these guys running around tired, I'm telling you, Denzel Ward, and if anything, the best way to prove that we should go trade for him is just compare him to any of the other corners that we currently have on our team right now. Denzel Ward, I'm not saying he would have shut down Zay Flowers against the Ravens, but he would have done a better job than especially what Benjamin St-Juste did. Even though he did get hated on with that pass interference call, Denzel Ward would have done better than him, I'll tell you that. And then you have Greg Newsome. Right now, through this season, he's having his lowest performance according to Pro Football Focus with a 51.2 overall grade. But if you're going back to 2021, his rookie season, 68 grade. 2022, 69.1. 2023, 69.6. Improving every year. I don't exactly know what's going on this year, but week 1 against the Dallas Cowboys, he had a 78 overall grade. But most recently against the Philadelphia Eagles, which is bringing his grade all the way down. You could call this an outlier how bad it is. Against the Philadelphia Eagles, they gave him a 29.2 overall grade with a coverage grade of 27.1. He had a terrible performance against them, but before then, he was kind of hooping this year. His overall grade is just so low because of that one terrible performance against the Eagles. Now, granted, that may make you a little apprehensive to go get him because we play the Eagles twice this year. So you trade for him, and then you play the Eagles twice, which means he would have to play the Eagles 3 times in one season, and he didn't have a good game against them. So I know that doesn't necessarily make the best argument for him, but I'm telling you, Greg Newsome would be a great addition for this cornerback group that we have as well. Again, my whole point is now, of course, I want to trade for JC Horn above everybody else. Please go get JC Horn out of Carolina. Like, after we go whoop on Carolina this weekend, don't even let JC Horn leave and go back to Carolina. Trade for him right then. Don't even let him leave the DMV. Yeah, you can go from Maryland to Virginia, but don't keep going all the way down to North Carolina. We're not allowing that. You might as well just go ahead and stay, in my opinion. But my point is, I prefer JC Horn, but I will still definitely take Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome on this team because I like Benjamin St-Juste. I'm not going to hate on him too much. Covering Zay Flowers, especially with the offensive scheme that the Ravens had, is a really tough ask. That's a really tough job to go out there and perform. He was bad, really bad. Don't get me wrong. But my point is, I feel like Benjamin St-Juste as a cornerback too, or a guy that's not asked to cover the shifty fast receivers like Zay Flowers. You let Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome do that. Allow Benjamin St-Juste to cover the bigger guys. Like, remember a couple of years ago against Justin Jefferson, he did a pretty good job there. And then, like, against Mike Evans at times, he wins his battles. He's pretty decent. Like, he's better, at least, going against those bigger receivers receivers, but when it comes to those shiftier, quicker, I mean, remember he shut down AJ Brown? I think was that last year he shut down AJ Brown, or a couple of years ago? Like, literally did the best job against AJ Brown I think I've seen any corner in the NFL do against him. You ask him to cover the bigger, taller, more aggressive jump ball guys. A shiftier guy like a Zay Flowers, that would be perfect for a guy like Greg Newsome or a Denzel Ward. That's why it's not even just getting a better corner. How about getting a corner that's better suited for certain matchups that we have to face? Because we're not done going against shifty, fast receivers. Because who's going to cover Devonta Smith when we play the Eagles? So I would prefer a faster, shifter corner, and then let Benjamin St-Juste cover the bigger guys like a AJ Brown, and then everybody else just pretty much get in where they fit in. Mike Sanders still is improving, and Noah Benogany was arguably a free agency still, but we still need more talent. I need everybody in that cornerback depth chart to just move down a spot for me, please, and I feel like we may be good to go. And I'm not going to lie. To provide better context to Greg Newsome's 2024 season so far, because again, his grade is pretty low, but shouts out to this Jaguars fan for pointing this out. He said the Jaguars couldn't get this trade done until after they play this weekend, but I can't stress enough how hard I would be trying to land Browns cornerback Greg Newsome II. He's a young, versatile cornerback with excellent man coverage skills, and that's what Joe Wood Jr. clearly wants to do. He wants to run a lot of man coverage, but we just don't have the guys to do it, so every now and then he keeps having to switch back to zone, and then we get exposed to zone as well, and Joe Wood Jr. is kind of like to a point where it's like, I don't even know what y'all want me to call. I want to run aggressive man blitzing defenses where we send a lot of guys at the quarterback, and then y'all are just out there with sticky man coverage, and then the quarterback is nowhere to throw the ball and potentially even throwing away turnovers. That's how they pretty much got it done for the Cowboys while they led the NFL over the past 3 years in turnovers. We can't do that right now. We just literally don't have the body. So Joe Wood Jr. is scrambling, trying to figure out, okay, we just got to make do with what we have right now. You trade for a guy like Greg Newsome, who is excellent in man coverage. I completely agree. We could really start doing something. Going back to the Jaguars fan, he said that Greg Newsome posted an elite 83.9 per Football Focus grade in that category after week 1. So after week 1, before that game against the Eagles, he had an 83.9 Pro Football Focus coverage grade, which is one of the best out of all corners in the NFL. So if you just wipe away week 1 and week 6 against the Eagles, he's one of the best cover corners in the NFL. I don't know what happened in those games. I haven't gone to go really look at the tape, but that's really interesting. Also in 2023, he posted a 72.3 Pro Football Focus grade and over 200 man coverage snaps. He'll cost you $15.8 million over 2 years, which is extremely cheap and could probably be acquired for a late third or early fourth. And if we can flip Jahan Dotson into Greg Newsome, I think that's a big time win if you ask me. And I'm not gonna lie, what's crazy is that both Greg Newsome and Denzel Ward play with the tough mentality that Joe Wood Jr. wants. They play with the man coverage ability, X's and O's wise, but even mentality wise, the same exact mentality and aggressiveness that Joe Wood Jr. and Dan Quinn have been demanding from their players for years now, but especially since they pulled up with the Commanders. If you watch their highlights, you literally see those Browns corners playing aggressively in run defense, making big hits on running backs, and even coverage wise competing for the ball every play. They're very scrappy and all of that type of stuff. So I mean, man, at this point, go ahead and trade for both of them, dog, if you ask me, if you can. Also, shouts out to Disco for bringing this up. He said, if I'm the Browns, I'm trading every player of value on my roster that I can to recoup some more top 100 draft picks. If you do, you might have a shot at acquiring multiple picks if you go full sale with it. I completely agree. I mean, now, granted, I'm a biased Commanders fan that is like trying to entice the Browns, like, hey, you're not doing nothing. Do you want these pretty little draft picks we have? We have a lot of them. Just give us some of your best players and things like that. But I think, honestly, from even their point of view, they probably should just get in sell mode. You can already see that they're indicating that they are in sell mode off of the Amari Cooper trade. Maybe they may be willing to come up off of some more of their star players. And like I always say, when it comes to Adam Peters, me personally, especially by this point, there's no way we as fans still don't give Adam Peters the benefit of the doubt. There's just no way. Whether he does trade for somebody or not before the trade deadline, I'm just going to assume whether he does or what he doesn't do is the right answer for me. But that's just me. He hasn't missed yet. I mean, look at this O-line. Look at the players that he let leave in free agency or trades. Look at the guys he signed in free agency or trades. I mean, this guy literally hasn't missed coaching hires and decision making and all of that type of stuff. The quarterback we took, the draft decisions we made. I'm telling you right now, he hasn't missed. I'm giving him the ultimate benefit of the doubt, whether we get aggressive before the trade deadline or not, even though as a fan, I am rooting for us to get aggressive. And then also, shouts out to my my dog Washington Command Center. You can find him on YouTube. Make sure you follow him on Twitter and YouTube, and I don't want to steal his content. He'll probably make a video on it, but I'm just gonna throw this out there and leave y'all with this hypothetical he came up with just real quick. He said, how about a 2025 first, second, and 2/3, 2026 first, second, and third, and a 2027 second and third for Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and Amari Cooper, plus the Browns eating most of the cap hits? Would you make the trade, is what he asked me. And this was before the Amari trade that just happened earlier today. So just go ahead and take away that third. And honestly, that is a never before seen trade package. We've never seen anything like that before. But I do want to know in the comment section right now, would y'all do that? Just take away Amari Cooper and take away one of those thirds, include all of those other first, second, and thirds, and then you get Myles Garrett, Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, which would arguably take you from a struggling defense to one of the best defenses in the NFL. How do you feel about being Super Bowl contenders right now this year in Jaden Daniels' rookie season and in our first rebuilding season? Let me know. And also, before we get up out of here, I thought it was interesting that the Bills had to release Marquez Valdes-Scantling to pick up Amari Cooper when they already have Curtis Samuel. But the point is, now, after Aaron Rodgers just got the Jets to trade for Devonta Adams, now he has a Packers receiver there with him, being a former Packers quarterback. Now Marquez Valdes-Scantling had to be released from the Bills. Maybe Aaron Rodgers can get another Packers receiver to join him for the Jets. This guy's literally just bringing one green team to the other, potentially. Also, shouts out to Atlanta. We officially have been awarded Super Bowl, the one that's coming in 2028. You have New Orleans for 2025, San Francisco for 2026, Los Angeles for 2027, and Atlanta has 2028. Sounds like it's going to be fun. And then on top of that, we already have the World Cup in 2026. So golly, man, Atlanta about to be busy for the next few years. I'm actually a little worried, I ain't gonna lie. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you support the channel by leaving a like, and of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about every single thing discussed in this video, man. I need all of y'all opinions on whether we should go big or in trade for some of those Brown stars. Should we be sellers before the trade deadline? How you feel about the Washington Commanders and Bears game getting flexed? How do you feel about the comparison between what we got for Jahan Dotson compared to what the Bills had to give up to get Amari Cooper and what the Browns got in return? Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video, especially that insane trade package that my boy at Washington Command Center gave us the proposition for and asked me about. Let me know, would you do that trade? Are you willing to just go ahead and dive in head first, all eggs in one basket on this season? Let me know. I mean, granted, a lot of those guys that you're trading for are young, so you would still also be building for the future at the same time in a way. The only problem is, how do you pay everybody when their contract's in? But hey, man, hey, it doesn't sound too crazy to me. Let me know how y'all feel about it. I really appreciate y'all. Again, do not leave this video without stiff arming that like button. Catch y'all later. I'm out.